When you hear forced desegregation, you think Birmingham in the 60s, someplace in the South. You think civil rights marches. You don't think about New York, 1987 through 1993.
Our object is not to create martyrs or heroes. Our object is to get this housing built.
Show Me Here is the story of the necessity of building 200 units of low-income housing as the first part of a comprehensive desegregation plan that was the result of a federal court ruling in Yonkers, New York, just north of New York City.
Yonkers intentionally segregated its housing and its schools for 40 years.
They had intentionally and willfully taken federal housing dollars and used it to hyper-segregate their city. The history was the history, and the history was unconstitutional.
There does have to come a moment of truth. A moment when the city of Yonkers seeks not to become a national symbol of defiance of civil rights.
This exact story is playing out in Westchester right now. Westchester right now is fighting the federal government about low-income housing. So this is not past, this is not history, this is the present.
This is not a Yonkers story, this is an American story, which is to say, I don't want to risk any aspect of what I have to bring other people through the same keyhole so that they can have the same chance at the same American experience that I have.
But even opponents
They're talking about building those here?
Mary has her little brick house on St. John's Avenue. We actually shot in her house. Many times we tried to shoot in the actual locations, if they still existed. These aren't wealthy people, these are working class people. They've worked very hard for these houses, and they don't want to see that change. The way that we were designing public housing in those days was basically just like warehousing.
The actual Schlobone projects, it's really built into this dugout on this hillside where there are these 20-foot walls.
They were destined to fail. We see the families who are living there, the women and the children who are trying to make a better life for their kids, trying to do something, and they're trapped.
You know we're gonna need more than one room when the baby comes.
Look, we ain't gonna be here forever.
Doreen Henderson is introduced. Her parents were living in the tenements, and they made enough money to move out. But her sister is still there. And so she keeps going back. And I said, this is the life I want.
Too many units in any neighborhood won't blend in with the community.
Oscar Newman was the court-appointed consultant on the housing.
He saw public housing as a disaster, and he set out to redesign it. He had the solutions, just we had to get people to listen to him.
We should have never appealed in the first place. Not a chance in hell they'll overturn sand.
Angelo Martinelli was no fan of the housing either. He nonetheless reached this point where he realized the appeal had no legs at all.
I was the one who voted to appeal last year to give Yonkers its full day in court. My opponent did not.
He sees a position to take, and he takes it. And that's how Nick Wasisco, the young mayor, gets in.
It was, in some ways, Nick's original sin. Even before he was inaugurated as mayor, the phone rang and the lawyers said, we've lost the appeal and you got to build the housing.
I just got to get everybody on board, convince the rest of the council that the law is the law.
I think you're going to be a great mayor.
I has real admiration for the political skills he did have. And Nick Wasisco was a lawyer by trade. He had never actually practiced, but he'd passed the bar, and he respected the idea of it's a nation of laws. The Constitution's not there to protect what's popular. Nick got that. And so he then turned around and told the voters what they did not want to hear. That's when all hell breaks loose.
Majority rules in America, but it can't rule contrary to law.
When you step out of that crowd, when you step away from the mob, and you have to deal one-on-one with somebody, it's much harder to hold on to your preconceptions about who they are because they're right in front of you.
Mayor's office.
True story, Mary was trying to get through to the mayor's office, and he picked up the phone.
Why can't you say that you think it's wrong? At least let the people know that.
A leader is supposed to lead, and that's what I'm trying to do.
She doesn't really change her opinion that much, but she suddenly has to face the fact that she's dealing with a human being.
There was a sense of frustration and exhaustion that here it was the late 1980s, and they're battling over whether or not there can be 200 units scattered around a city of 200,000 people. and they're battling it like their lives depended on it.